Hi everybody. So there's been a lot of excitement lately regarding the latest 4.1 release of Ecamm Beta. So this is the beta version of the software that I'm going to be showing you today. And it's regarding the new overlays that are available within the application. So in the past, if you wanted to create overlays which were basically graphic elements, you'd commonly have to go to another program to create them, maybe in Keynote or some other design application. But now you can do most of that in Ecamm itself. So it saves you round tripping out to several other applications to create those kind of graphics. So for instance, in the past, I would have had to create arrow graphics when I was doing software demonstrations, and really this is what I want to concentrate on, is how you might use the new graphical elements. If you're demonstrating software, you can just use those to show how areas are of importance and to highlight those areas. So let's get straight into it. And I'll be doing a lot of this in the demo mode, so hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing and creating. So let's move straight into demo mode. Essentially what that does is it puts us into a situation where we can show you the overlays. So in the overlays window, which is just over here, and I'll just zoom in. So we're in the overlays menu just here. There's a brand new icon which is just in this area here, and that icon is the new shape overlay. So, and if I click on that, the new shape comes up in the screen over my face, but I'll just have it over here for a second. So one of the things you can do is if you click on the pencil icon, which is just part of the shape, so as you roll over the shape, you've got this pencil icon, and that gives you a new menu. And this shows that we are on the shape, and the shape allows you to create a rectangle, a circle, or a squircle. Interestingly, there's no square option, but you might see that mine looks very much like a square, and indeed it is. I've got a lovely little application that I'd recommend to you all, and that application is called Free Ruler. It goes by the name of Free Ruler because it is free, and this is a screen widget essentially that you can get from the App Store absolutely free, and these measurements here are pixels, so you can measure any box or create a box with this screen overlay. So all you need to do, for instance, with your rectangle on the screen, because you can see I can drag any of the corners to make it whatever shape I want. But if I wanted it to be a square, all I would need to do is to, and notice the numbers at the top just above the cursor here where it says 219, and as I drag along, it gives you the dimensions. That's also true going down this side. So you can see to the left hand side as I drag up and down, there is a set of numbers there as well. What you would do is you go onto the very edge of your rectangle and drag it so that the numbers say 200 at the top and 200 on the left hand side. And you can just drag in, and if you just want to really be tight and make sure, you can just make sure just like so. So I've got a 200 by 200 square box there out of the rectangle. I can move this free ruler away if I want to, and I can hide it. I'll just hide it on my NumPad app. And now if I want to keep that square, all I need to do is hold down the shift key as I drag a corner, and that will allow you to keep it square. So long as you're holding the shift key down, it keeps the dimensions and the ratios, and you still then move it around the screen. Anyway, so that's just a little tip. Let's go back into the area where we can see the options that are available to us. So you've got rectangle, circle and squircle, and you've got borders that you can build in as well. So if I wanted to build a border for this, I can do so, and I can select any color that I like as well. So if I click on the color icon, it brings up the Apple color menu. I kind of like to start with the crayons or the pencils and choose the color there because they're really quite good. Otherwise, I would normally go for the HSB side of things because you can select the hue and the saturation and the brightness of the slider. But let's carry on with red right now. So the border color is red, and I've got a border width that I can adjust as well. And this is going to be kind of important if you want to use this as a highlighting area. So what I'm going to do as well is choose that, although you can get color for the fill, we're going to choose none. So as soon as it becomes none, then this becomes a box that you can use to highlight an area of the screen. So if I wanted to highlight maybe the picture behind me, I might be able to drag it over there and show you that. So it's this kind of thing, and you can use the Ecamm screen to highlight and show an area that you want to use on the screen. You can just use it as a rectangle, and in most cases you probably would. But let's go in and have a look at some of the other options that you've got. As well as having a fill of none, you've got a color, a gradient. You can fill it to blur things. So if I wanted to just highlight this, I put it over my own face and I choose blur. You can see that it blurs me out, and I've got an adjustment to how much blur I want to apply. Okay, so you can blur things out that way. You've got a variety of other blur types. So there's a zoom blur and a motion blur, and these can be very, very useful if you want to just mask things. You've got a pixelation option as well, which is good for the same kind of thing. Let's say you might have a serial number, for instance, on the screen that you want to pixelate out, or anything else, a logo that maybe you want to pixelate out. That's really good for that. Hexagonal pixels as well as square pixels, and you can go for a comic option as well. So the comic option is there if you want to use that for a little bit of fun. Otherwise, you've got some essentially some twisting options. Again, they're good for masking things if you want to, or just have a bit of a play and have a bit of fun with those kind of things. But what we're going to do is have none. And so if this now becomes a filled box with a border. So let's now move on to the way that you might be able to use this to demonstrate and teach. Here's a little tip for you. In Ecamm, if you've got a asset like an overlay here and it says that it's shown in the current scene, you can simply drag it or drag a copy of it to the above area here, and let me just go back, which is showing all scenes. And I should have been able to do that, so let me just copy that again. Let's just copy that. Copy there stays. So if I now move on to my next scene, that will stay in this scene. So this is giving you a good idea. I think the border's a bit wide for my liking, so I'm going to narrow it down, but I've got the option, as I say, to very easily just make it bigger or smaller. What we can do is use this to then highlight areas of the demonstration. So if I wanted to say, look, meet Ecamm Live, or I wanted to say, look, really, this is the area that you need to concentrate on. Let me show you what that looks like just being in the live mode. I would be able to now drag this box wherever I want to. So I can say, hey guys, look at this 30% off for this summer saving, or meet Ecamm Live, or let's go to the recording option and really highlight that. So you can just do that very easily and drag it around the screen to really highlight the areas that you want to highlight when you're doing a demonstration. Hide that for a second and go to another area on the screen and highlight, let's say that we want to look at the effects. So I can bring that back in again and I can say, so the effects button that we're going to press is just there. So it gives you a really good idea as to how you might be able to do demonstrations of any software, because there's good screen sharing options within Ecamm, and you can very easily share screens of applications you're trying to teach, of websites that you're trying to look at, and anything else like that. So let's just show you a couple more things, a couple more tricks of what you can do within those rectangle options. So I've brought the rectangle back up again just by highlighting the eye icon here. As I've said, we can use the fill option, but one of the other great things about this is that you've got not only a color, but you've got a gradient. So the gradient, as you might see now, allows me to rotate the gradient around, so I can have the white at the top of the border. Let me just make the border a bit more obvious, a bit bigger, so you can see that that white gradient can rotate around as I drag it. But maybe you think it's a nice effect. You can actually also click on the motion effect and it will automatically rotate around for you. Again, another way of being able to highlight an area that you want to highlight with very subtle movement. Let's just move it over this way again once more. So we've got motion. I'll go back to the solid color. We can create corner radiuses, so it's smoothed off around the corners. And we've got the opacity options as well, so we can fade it in and out if we want to. The other great thing now about one of these, and let me just fill this with a color. So it's just going to be filled with white. Let's bring it into a different color, put a nicer color in the middle. That's not very nice at all, is it? So let's use a different color. Let's go for that. And we can rotate that box. So you can do very nice subtle rotations using the rotate option as well. Of course, within the fill, you've got the gradient option as well, and you can rotate those gradients as you like also. So that becomes really nice too. Let me turn this one off because I want to show you something that I did a little bit earlier. In the background, and I'll take it off of demo mode. What I want to do is show you. Obviously, you can see me, and I'm sitting actually in a camera overlay over the back of a background. If I turn my camera overlay off, you can see that this background has a very subtle gradation that meets down in amongst that red line area. So from one end to the other, you've got this subtle gradation going through the screen. So it's darker in this area here compared to the center, and then it darkens out again. So I've got this gradation running across the screen. So now I've really shown you some of the things that you can do with this. Let's just click out the rotation. I'll just get it back to 0. It kind of snaps into the 0 position, and I will hide that again. What I want to do, I'll just bring you back onto live demo mode so you've got a few areas that you can see me. How did I create this gradation? Because technically you can only create the gradation from one color to another, but I've effectively built in a second gradation. So in the overlays area, you can see I've got show in background, and I've got 3 overlays in that option there. So the first one, let's turn these off, is a completely white background. So I've made an overlay here with the new overlay, new shape overlay that's completely white. I then created a second Ecamm overlay, and that is a white to blue gradation. And what I did is I rotated it using the rotation option. Just here you can rotate that overlay. I'll try and show you. If I rotate it a little, you can see it just slightly moving. So I had it about there, and then I essentially created another overlay. So let's turn that one off and turn this one on and show you the settings. And that was white to blue, and the overlay was this side. So I can again highlight that if I rotated it, it will rotate around, and I'm using that rotation option to rotate it. So then you've got one color, which is this one, dark blue on the top leading to white at the bottom left. And if I just turn that off, and the other one is dark blue at the bottom leading to white at the top right. The trick is all in the blend mode that you see here. If you use darken with this situation going on, now you do have to have white in the background, but if you use then darken as a blend mode, then it allows you to blend the two together and they meet and give you a nice lighter area in the middle. Now, I've tried a few things. It is not perfect yet. We are in a beta software, so there's some misalignments and some things that you'd wish for if you were either Illustrator or Photoshop expert, but it does work very well, and I'm sure we'll have more gradient options introduced for us where you might be able to have 2 or 3 gradients and other gradient mixes. But at the moment it's restricted to just 2 colors, but you can then start to blend them together, and in this situation the darken works, and the angle that you can achieve is completely customizable because you can use the rotation option in the screen. I hope that gives you a little bit of a clue as to what you can do. So I'll just bring us back to the main scene. And so hopefully that's of interest to you. If you found this interesting and useful, then please give a like and subscribe if you want to. So for software demos and recording videos, for me, that's what Ecamm really does very, very well. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to helping you again in the near future. Bye for now.